lovely, amazing content on Google Cloud. Sathish VJ is a Google Cloud authorized trainer and is recognized as Google Developer Expert and has held all Google Cloud technical certifications. He also runs a popular YouTube channel known as Awesome GCP, and he invests independently in early stage startups. And it's such an honor and privilege for Udaipur that Satish is visiting us for the second time for GDG Udaipur's event. And I think in the last 6 months, you're here for the third time, right? So let's welcome him with a huge round of applause. Over to you, Satish.
Like she said, is it audible on the mic? Okay. I need to push it a little closer. Okay. Yeah, I think that's better. So, like she said, this is the third time. I've never been to Udaipur for like 40 plus years of my life, and suddenly in 6 months is the third time, and I'm loving it. This time I brought my wife and kid, and they refuse to leave the hotels. You know, they're like, it's so nice. The place is so nice, and I hope I keep coming back. Definitely in love with the city and everything that's going on here. Alright, so today I'm going to talk about one specific tool that I built. You guys are already talking about RAG and LLMs and vector search and all. So some of you looks like you're already ahead. This is more of a little bit of a primer talk, primarily focusing on tools and technologies within Google Cloud. Yeah. And apart from talking about the technology, which we'll do a little round up, I'll talk to you about how I built this. So the first thing you can do is there is this website gencommand.com/r. To try this out later to use it, go just sign up and then you can use it for free. It's a tool that I built using LLMs and the Google technologies within generative AI to build something that increased my productivity significantly. Okay, so I did it as part of a hackathon, and then I said this makes so much sense that I then decided to make it more useful for more people. These financial reports, it could be a whole bunch of Word documents. It could be the whole of internet and HTML pages. It could be customer conversations where you talk to a customer back-end call center, and then you type in a question, they respond, you ask something that again text, right? So you collect all this information, gigabytes and terabytes of it, and then you feed it into some kind of an algorithm, which within which we want to identify what is the structure of it. Okay? Now, why is this different from previous ways of doing this? In the past, we used to have data that is very structured. So when you work at Excel sheets or Google Sheets, or when you look at databases, right, the RDBMS databases, they're all in rows and columns and cells, right? And there's a very fixed structured data. So I used to run a large program out of a company in Paris, where all the airlines, airports, all of them used to send their data into this consortium called SITA. It's not an Indian Ramayana, Rama Sita. No? It stands for Societe International Telecommunication Aeronautics. So anytime you guys step into an airport, buy food, check in luggage, anything you do in an airport, we get that information, right? And I used to have a large team just to do the pre-processing part. Okay? So in typical data analysis and any kind of data work, the amount of time and effort spent in pre-processing is significant compared to the actual analysis of the data, right? What are they doing? Why do they want to do it? How do we improve it? That comes much later. But the predominant work seems to be around the pre-processing. And like I said, we are a large team just to do that. Then you get into the analysis, right? Then we get into the part about whether we generate the bills and we send it to, at that time, the Kingfisher Airlines and all that, right? And we send them the bills and all the airlines in the world, Singapore Airlines, the American Airlines, Delta, we send it out to all of them. But again, like I said, the pre-processing was quite a high effort. So in this kind of work though, when you're working with LLMs, you don't do pre-processing. You pretty much take the raw data and put it all into the LLM, the model building process, which means the time to get the results is a little faster, right? Or the effort required in terms of processing, pre-processing is not required, which itself is very convenient. So then you take all this data, you put it into this algorithm, some kind of machine learning algorithm, and I won't get into the details, and it does some kind of processing to come up with relationships among these, among the content itself. Okay? So let's take a simple example just to give you an idea of how this builds up. It's not an exact way how it works, It's an analogy. Okay? So don't go with this and say, don't write it in an exam paper, but it gives you a good sense of how it works. So when you're processing text, you've got a large number of words. Okay? So hundreds of thousands of words in the English language, you take all of them. And in the beginning, there are no connections between them. Then as the algorithm encounters one particular sentence, what will happen? Let us say the sentence is something like, in Paris, France's capital, the president said. So now there are three major words in there. Okay? And let's focus only on three. Obviously, the other words also are relevant in the model building process. So it looks at Paris, France, and capital and says, okay, this seems to be appearing together. So there is some connection between us. So while all the other words have like zero weightage, this one it gives some weightage. Right? So maybe like 0.01. That there is some association or connection between them. So that's a good starting point. Then when it encounters the next sentence, where it says, maybe in the travel blog, it says, I landed at the Charles de Gaulle airport in Paris, which is in France's capital. Again, France, capital, Paris, are come together. So you increase the weightage for those. And then there is maybe a sports article where it says the finals will be played in France's capital. If anybody is coming to Paris, then here, so on and so forth. Right? So again, over and over, when the same kind of words appear, there is a stronger association that is built amongst them. And the way of doing this, there is a nice video by this in this channel called 3 Blue 1 Brown. They explain it well. All of this involves like vector mathematics, matrix multiplication, all of that. But it is there. But the general idea is there is some connection now that is formed between key words that you find in these separate articles. Okay? Now, having done this, those weights are then reflected in the model that is output. Okay? And the model, therefore, is a large matrix like this, which has association between these words. Okay? So, at the end, remember a very important thing. We have at the end of the training process, we don't have the words, we don't even have the source material, all the sports articles, travel articles, political articles, none of that is it. And all that we have in the end is a bunch of numbers that shows weightage and associations, right? Associations as weights in a large matrix. And then matrix, I didn't care. I was just looking at the, what do you call the Amazon review or whatever, and then I said, okay, but there is some meaning to it because I didn't understand the difference between one monitor and another. They will just say something, but I don't know what it is. When I was looking a little deeper, I realized that this is a language of its own. Okay? So when it says 6 at the beginning, it meant that it was manufactured in 2016. If it was a product code that started with 7, it was manufactured in 2017. Right? If it was something like Q, then it was a QHD. If it had the letter U in it, it was UHD, Ultra HD, something like that. So essentially, this was again a language. A sequence of letters which had some sense and meaning. So what did I do? I said, okay, is there a way I can find out what these product codes are? And I wrote something quickly, and this, I don't know if it's still available, it was available, it's called some explain model number or something, where I would just put in any model number I wanted, and it will automatically show me what is that product and what are the features. So you might not, until now, you might not have looked at it, curiously to say, is something in our daily life representing language? Maybe it is. If it is sequence of letters that has meaning, like inherent, intrinsic meaning, it means that you could apply LLMs to it. Okay? So this was a very simple example. I quickly tried it. There's a couple of examples I tried on it for LG monitors, Sony monitors, and it gives me the details about what it is. But really, I was not satisfied with this. I bought the monitor and it's done. I was like, okay, I need to build something more. What is another thing that I struggle with? For me, one of the toughest things these days, because I do a lot of work on the command line, is my ability to remember these commands. So earlier when we were working in the decades past, we would have a few commands. There'll be some find, there'll be some grep and all that. Today, every big product has its own command. Kubernetes, Docker, AWS, Azure, G-Cloud, all of them has its own commands. And I can't remember these commands for the life of me. I can't remember it. Not only can I not remember it, I don't want to remember it. So I think it was Sherlock Holmes in this Sherlock Holmes book, he says, your mind or your brain is like a fixed capacity room. And as you take more things in, something has to go out. There is no way that you're going to hold all of this, which is why, so I've got a little daughter now. She can hold any information. She remembers everything she did because her brain room is very large and there's very little in there right now, right? Because a little baby, it's not had too many experiences. As you grow older, you start forgetting things. It is not that you're getting old, it's just that you've got so much more information to hold, right? Something has to go on. So, and I don't want to, there's no real value in me trying to by heart all the Google Cloud commands or all the Kubernetes commands. This is something I want to outsource. Right? Here's a tool that will give it to me. I don't want to know. Is there, can I build this? Okay. So at this point, like I said, it was still called MakerSuite. Now it's called AI Studio, but it's the same product. Okay? I will refer to it as AI Studio from now on. And I think in the workshop today, you'll be using this. AI Studio itself has 3 parts. There are different kinds of prompts you can give. A prompt is a question that you ask. Okay? So the first one is the chat prompt. In the chat prompt, what happens is you retain context, right? So remember, I asked, what is the capital of France? That is part of the context of the question. Okay? How many words are available to the LLM to make a decision about the next word? Okay? So in the chat, what happens? You ask, what is something? It is this. The next question carries the context from the previous question. Okay? So over and over, as you ask more questions, the context increases. Okay? And then as the context increases, maybe your questions become better and better. So remember how when you do Google searches, you start with the generic search. You don't get the right result. What do? You modify it by adding specific keywords that you want answers to. The context kind of has it. As you converse with somebody, the context is built. Right? So for example, when you converse with your friends, you'll say some random thing and you both start laughing like maniacs. Why? There's a context about something else. But if I went and said the same thing to somebody you don't know, then you're like, what the heck are you talking about? So, like in the same sense, context gives you more information. But there's a limit to how much context you can hold because the more context you have, more calculation. And there's only so many calculations that these computers can. Which is why in things like ChatGPT and all, when you keep asking more and more and more questions, at some point it forgets, it gives you more vague answers. Why? Because the oldest context is removed. It is forgotten. So, because there's only limited context that these systems can hold. So, this is where you have a conversation. One after the other, you ask questions, get an answer, and the context is removed. Another one is what is called a single shot or a multi-shot or a zero-shot context, where you give it examples. Okay? Given that the capital of India is Delhi, given that the capital of Sri Lanka is Colombo, so on and so forth, right? What is the capital of a country? In which case, you're giving examples saying, here is the context for you to understand what it is. Given that, what is the answer? And the third kind is a free-form approach where there's no context. You ask a question and then you forget about it. Right? You ask another question and then you forget about it. So for the, I have come to what do I have? I understand how an LLM works conceptually. I also understand what I want to build, and within the LLM, what kind of prompting do I want to use. Okay? Now I go about building the app. So the first thing to do is to see if this thing will actually work in Kubernetes. The spelling does not read perfect. And what does it do? It gives me those some answers. Okay. So whether it's using code or whether it's using, let me go down a little less. How do I delete pods? It's given me some kind of code for it in Go. Or if you're using toolcutter, here are the commands. Okay. So since the answer is not exactly what I wanted, let me go and modify this a little bit. Okay. So give me the command. Okay. To delete pods and Kubernetes. So now I'm saying I don't need code, I only need the command. Okay. And it's given me only that. So for me to validate whether this concept would even work, how much time has it taken me? Seconds. Okay, so I've got an idea in my mind. Okay, this is something, this is a language. What the way you write commands It's a language, right? When you use Kubernetes, kubectl or Docker or any of the other ones, there is a syntax in which you write, like a grammar, like grammar for a language, there is grammar for the command. Ask a question, you get it. Okay, that is it. So within a matter of seconds, I know that my program will work. Okay, I have validated my concept. Okay. Now, I can give even more, better things in this say. Just give me the commands. Let me just copy this and then type it again. I can give it more context. Like for example, I can say, just give me commands without any explanation. So I can narrow down what I want by giving metadata. So again, the process of validating whether this works or not is a matter of seconds. Now what do I do? I don't want to go ask this in a browser all the time. I want to be doing this on the command line, right? Because I'm already working on the command line. I don't want to shift to a browser, run a search, then get all these answers, copy paste it. How do I do that? I can go in here and say get code. And there is code that is available to run on the command line or within JavaScript or Python or Android or Swift or any of these lines. Okay. So I go in here and I copy this. Okay. So now I've already validated. Now I want to code for it. What is the code is also readily available for you. Now what have I done? I have already done this. Actually, I just fixed a bug in the program. Let me show you here how I run it. I already have put this in this thing called run.s. It's the same code, right? So in the code it says curl, and the silences don't give me too much information about the input output. Send a request to this URL, which is the Google URL, with an API key that is provided by AI Studio. And later, when Punita is doing the workshop, she will show you how to get it. I've already got that API key and I've put it in there. Okay, and then I say, this is the question that I want to ask, which is the prompt. Okay? And the prompt right now is give me Unix commands to find all text files that contain the word hello, something, right? Anything in English, I've just made it a little complex. So now what do I have? Again, once I copy paste the code and I put it into this thing, again, how much time did it take me to do that? Maybe a minute, right? Depends on your how good you are at copy pasting. It will take you a few seconds or a minute. So then, now that I run the thing, I just put a prompt saying, okay, so this is the input and this is the output. Okay. So here is the answer to that. Okay. The same thing now, I'm just going to run it. I think I've got one where instead of getting the full output, I've got some where I'm running it through jQuery. jQuery is a way to filter the output. So instead of getting the full JSON output, I'm saying just give me the output that is within text, right? So it says within the full JSON, look at all the candidates array, look at the content field within that, look at all the parts of that and give me the text field. Okay? And that is essentially what it is. So the same thing I will run with the full JSON, just to show you the comparison. Okay? The full JSON says there is a field called candidates, within that something called content, within that something called parts, and within that something called text. Okay? So the process of going from idea, I've got an idea about a LLM program that I want to build, and to getting it working is a matter of minutes with the Google Cloud technology. Okay? It's very, 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 very simple to do. Okay. Then, while I'm sitting down, let me just show you the rest of the things also. What I then did was to, I think I, where is it? Change the, what I then did was to create a program using Go to do all of this. So here is the same thing that I built. I add some bells and whistles around it to create this thing called gen command. Okay? So if I say gen command and give any prompt, it will give me all those results in line in the command line itself. Right? So I don't need to shift to a browser. I don't need to run searches and then copy paste things and bring it back into the command line. Right? I ask anything I want. And I can also run it with different models. So if you see the command there, it says Gen command minus M, Gemini Pro. So I'm routing it to either Palm or Gemini Pro or any other backend LLM. Right? Google provides Palm, Gemini, Gemini Pro, and all that. I'm using any of them to run this. And I can ask questions about Azure, I can ask questions about Kubeflow, and it gives me the results in a matter of seconds. Okay? So, and it doesn't matter. I can ask, I think I got also in French, you can ask questions in French, right? Gen command, you have to then utilize the arm group. It says, how do I add a user to a group? I can ask the same thing in Spanish. Buscar archivos, basically find files, whatever. Okay? So whether you ask it in English, whether you ask it in Spanish or Portuguese or many languages, it just works. And I had to do nothing for this. I didn't say I'm going to build a Japanese version, a Spanish version or a French version. The Google LLMs automatically support it because it has already gone and done this for all these languages. Right? Whatever is found online, it's taken that as input and run it through the LLM building process. Okay? So try this out. Like I said, it's free, and I guarantee you that it's going to improve your productivity. If I have mine, right? This is why when that concept called brown. So when you apply, when some object is cold, the molecules and atoms within that don't move around very much. Right? Whereas when you apply heat to it, what happens? It starts bouncing around very fast, and it's essentially the concept of heat. These things bouncing around each other are they cause the collision is what generates heat. Right? So the more temperature, the more movement. And the more movement, the more cross connections. Okay? And essentially that leads to what is called creativity. Okay? So for example, if I do something over and over and over again, same thing over and over again, will it be creative? It's not considered creative, it's called repetitive. Right? But repetitive is good in certain cases. For example, if you go to a doctor and you go with some spot on your arm, and every time you go to him, if he comes up with something different, oh, that is probably melanoma. And next time you go to him, he says, oh no, that's just a rangoli. Or that's something like tattoo. It might be creative, but it's not useful.